Hello and welcome. If you've ever used an AI and just wished you had a little more control over the results, well, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to learn how to go from just using an AI to truly conducting it. Okay, let's dive right in. Does this feel familiar? You ask for a simple summary and the AI just starts repeating itself over and over? Or maybe you ask for a creative story and it gives you something completely boring. It's a super common frustration, for sure. Well, here's the secret. A large language model, or an LLM, it's not some kind of magic black box. It's really more like an instrument. And once you know how to tune that instrument, you can make it play exactly the kind of music you want to hear.
So to get started tuning this thing, we first have to understand, how it works. So let's pull back the curtain a little bit on what we're calling the AI prediction engine.
What's really fascinating here is that an LLM isn't thinking the way a person does. Nope. At its very core, it's just a ridiculously powerful prediction engine. It's constantly asking itself, okay, based on everything I've ever read and the text I see right now, what's the most likely next word? That's it.
And this is where our musician metaphor really comes to life. A seasoned jazz player can hear a few bars of a song and just improvise the rest. An LMM is doing the exact same thing, but it's doing it with words, or what we call tokens, instead of musical notes.
Okay, so every musician needs something to play, right? That's where our first layer of control comes in, the prompt. This is us writing the sheet music for our AI. Now, you've probably heard this term, prompt engineering. It sounds kind of technical, but it's really just the art of giving the AI the best possible instructions. It's all about choosing your words carefully, structuring your request, and giving it enough context to guide the model toward the answer you're actually looking for. And just think about it this way. A vague, sloppy prompt, that's like messy sheet music. It's almost guaranteed to lead to a messy performance. But a clear, well-structured prompt gives your AI this solid foundation to build on, and that leads to a much, much better final output. But what if you want to change how the AI plays the music? Maybe you want a really factual, by-the-book performance. Or maybe you want a wild, creative improvisation. For that, we need to start turning some control knobs. We're going to focus on the three main control knobs you're going to run into. They're called temperature, top K, and top P. I promise you, mastering these is the absolute key to fine-tuning your AI's voice. All right, first up is temperature. This one's probably the most intuitive. It directly controls how random or, creative the AI's word choices are. Just think of it as your main dial for cranking creativity up or down. So here's how it breaks down. A low temperature, something close to 0, makes the AI play it super safe. It'll almost always pick the most probable next word, which is perfect for things like factual summaries or writing code. But a high temperature, that encourages the AI to take some risks, to pick less likely words, and that's what leads to more creative and sometimes really surprising results. Next up, we have top K. This setting is like telling your musician, hey, only choose your next note from these top K options. So if K is, say, 20, the AI will only even consider the 20 most likely next words. This really helps prevent it from going completely off the rails by picking some bizarre, super low probability word. And finally, there's top P. Now, this one's a little different. Think of this less like a fixed number of options and more like a probability budget. So if you set P to 0.9, the AI looks at the most likely next words and keeps adding them to a list until their combined probability hits that 90% budget. This creates this really flexible pool of choices that adapts on the fly, which makes it a much more dynamic way to filter the options. So we have our sheet music, that's the prompt, and we've got our control knobs. Now, how do we put all this together to get a truly masterful performance? It's really a simple two-step process. First, top K and top P, they work together to filter the AI's massive vocabulary down to a smaller, more manageable pool of potential next words. Then, temperature comes in and decides how to choose a word from that smaller pool. Is it going to play it safe and pick the most likely one, or is it going to get creative and pick a more random one? And look, you don't have to guess and start from scratch. Here are some really practical starting points. For those factual tasks, you'll want to try low settings across the board. For a more balanced, coherent output, stick to the middle. And when you want to brainstorm or, write a poem, go ahead and crank up that creativity. And here is a crucial pro tip. Seriously, write this one down. If there is only one right answer, like in a math problem, you don't want any creativity. 0. You want to set the temperature to 0. This forces the AI to be as deterministic as possible. always choosing the single most likely next token. But a quick word of warning. As you start experimenting, you might run into this. It's the dreaded repetition loop. This is when the AI gets stuck and just starts saying the same phrase over and over and over again. And what's weird is this can happen when your settings are too extreme in either direction. If it's too low, the model gets stuck on the most obvious path. If it's too high, it can randomly loop back on itself. It's just a good reminder that, finding that perfect balance is really the key. Okay, so after all that, it is almost time for your encore. You now have the tools, and more importantly, you have the understanding to really take control. So let's just do a quick recap of your new toolkit. You now get that the AI is a prediction engine. It's not a magic box. You know how to write its sheet music with great prompts, and most importantly, you have the control knobs, temperature, top K, and top P, to perfectly tune that final performance. And this represents a pretty big shift, right? You're no longer just a listener sitting in the audience. You are the composer, you're the conductor. You are the one shaping the final output. So I'll leave you with this final thought. You now have the keys to unlock some incredible potential from these AI models. The only question left is, what kind of masterpiece will you create?